Hi, Whitney.
Welcome to the podcast where we acknowledge that the ways we are working really aren't working anymore.
We invite you into conversations with thought leaders, coaches, and industry experts to explore strategies for living with more ease and less grind, more flow and less fight. Welcome to Untrained.
Hello, Iris.
Oh my gosh. Hi, Whitney. Very
And
exciting
hello,
guest
Brenda.
today. Yes. Hello,
Hey.
Brenda. We're already vibe. This is a vibe. We're inviting you
vibing.
all.
Whole vibe.
It is a whole vibe. Brenda walked in. We have a vibe and we can't wait to get started. So I want to make sure that we do her some justice and give you her background as we do. Brenda Mariah is the president for the National Resume Writers Association, the past president of the Resume Writers and Coaches Association, and is certified in interview coaching, compensation negotiation, hell yes, job search strategy, resume writing, also another hell yes, career management, LinkedIn profile development, and employment law. You know, she does it all. And I love this quote: when you know you can do the job, but you're having trouble getting others to see your value, that's where Brenda Mariah comes in. Specialize in boosting confidence in those who are going to battle emotionally in their careers or transitions. Brenda Mariah of Push Career Management is a career-focused speaker, wordsmith, career storyteller, encourager, author, and strategist that can help them and you see what you're made of. You know, there's a lot of commas, but I think that's on purpose because you probably help people with so many things.
And master viber.
Indeed. I mean, we could be here all day, but I'm just going to give you the little highlights.
We could be
So
here
we're
all
not
day.
bored with just bio intros.
Well, we're not bored. And we just said that you graduated from Rochester Institute of Technology. That's a little bit of a connection to me in Rochester. An electrical engineer. I don't know. It was too fancy for me to understand. But what was it?
Electrical engineering technology.
Oh my gosh.
So that implies some career transitions that
Little
you've
bit.
undertaken yourself.
A little bit.
Can we, I know we have a bunch of questions and we have a flow, but I'd love for you to kind of talk about how did you go from double E, right? I think that's what it's
Yep.
called, to where you are today, helping people with their careers.
Yeah, so here's the deal. Sometimes you think you know what you want to do, and so you go about taking the steps and doing the things and taking the classes, getting the credentials, and then you realize you are not doing the right work. You come across that day where you realize I'm not doing the right work. This is not serving me. And you try to do something different, but it's scary because what you're doing is comfortable, it's familiar. And in my case, it was making me a lot of money. And so walking away from a good, solid paycheck didn't make a whole lot of sense, but something didn't fit. I always felt like a square peg in a round hole, and I didn't understand it. And then I took a class in small business success. And I knew right then and there I was supposed to be an entrepreneur. Didn't know what that was. So I had to look back over the course of my life and realize, wait, I'd always been a great writer. I'd always been a great communicator. I'd always been able to distill really complicated ideas and thoughts into simplification and understandable nuggets. And so I'm like, wait, oh my gosh. So after some prayer and all this fasting and all these other things, it's like, what? I'm supposed to be a resume writer. And then that just kind of evolved from there into other aspects of managing one's career, salary negotiation and all that. So that was the nuts and bolts of the story.
And that is a beautiful segue into what we're discussing on training here today, which is the idea that you need to sort of hang on to whatever you have, whatever's safe, whatever's known, and not change or not go explore something else or trust that you could make a transition. So that's what we're untraining here today, and you're going to help us.
Yes, amen. And just one other thought real quick. It's scary to think about change. I had change in my personal life forced upon me. So it was in the form of a thing called divorce. And it was forced upon me. I didn't see it coming, and here it is. And so now I had to I had no choice but to redefine what my future was going to be. I couldn't just be the same version of me that I had always been. And so sometimes I use the phrase a lot, a change will come, but change will come by choice or by force. And so you can either choose it and direct that thing, or you can let it happen to you and you now have to react to that thing. And so I'm just an advocate for changing on purpose, being intentional, daydreaming, starting to think through the things that you love about your work, the things you don't love about your work, and starting to carve out a path that makes everything make sense and it makes it enjoyable to go to work again.
I wanted to reflect back on your story because it's not like, Brenda, you went from like electrical engineering to resume writing overnight. There was a pathway and there were discovery points. There was a class, right? So I think that's really important to say is you might feel something, but it's not the transition does take time. And it's a little bit, I'm sure it was scary and awkward, right? And not like, what am I doing, right?
It was scary. It was awkward. I'm like, what the heck am I doing? Am I really doing this? Am I really about to walk away from all this money to potentially step into this situation where I'm not making even half of what I made? Is this what I'm really getting ready to do? But yeah, there was a whole lot of work. I had to buy some books and invest in some coaches and take all these classes and join up with these associations. And I had to learn, and I was the beginner all over again. Here I was, this kind of senior project manager, and now I'm the beginner. And I have to charge kind of bottom of the barrel prices. I don't know what I'm doing yet. I think I know. I have some ideas, but I don't know. And so I had to be willing to do the work. And I had to do that work in parallel with a full-time engineering job. It was rough. And I had 2 little kids. It was rough. And I had a spouse at that time. Like it was hard to manage and not lose myself in the process. And ultimately, I did. I lost myself. Something had to give. I lost me. And I'm so happy to say I've reclaimed myself. But that was because I was being intentional again. I knew where I wanted to go and who I wanted to become. And I got to dictate that thing.
One of the things that we had talked about is a way to tap into your expertise is to give you a couple of case examples, because we're seeing this with our clients a lot right now, either people who have not made the choice but have been let go, or people are really unhappy where they are, or people who are just afraid of even putting that toe into that water. So love to present some client cases and then have you weigh in on how you work with them so people can start to see that in-between phase and what it looks like in between this one doesn't work and how do I get to the next one. So client A, let's just say somebody who, there's a lot of stress out there with the market as it is, and that's making places that are already maybe a little disorganized, I'm finding more disorganized, more stressful, more toxic. And so for the people who are at jobs where they're like, ugh, I don't, this isn't working for me anymore, but I'm afraid to let go. I'm afraid to leave it because at least it is a job. How would you work with somebody like that?
I tell you, and I think about a lot of times, I think about those situations where somebody says, a coworker died and they were replaced a week later, and how we will ultimately allow jobs to destroy us. A good friend of mine, her physical health was severely compromised by the stress of her work. It was a very toxic situation. One of the coaches that I'm aligned with, her name is Chelsea J. She talks a lot about toxic work culture and really how to escape that thing. I think it's so, so very important that we first just kind of take a time out and this isn't healthy. This is not okay, that I can't ever take a vacation, that my boss is talking to me like I'm a child and they're demeaning me, that I have all the responsibility of 3 different workers and I'm getting paid less than the salary of one person. All of these things make it make sense because it doesn't make sense to me. And we have a toxic situation going on. We have a very high stress situation going on. But the word that you said was fear. We're so afraid of leaving that we don't even try to see what is possible. And so my suggestion wouldn't out the gate be, okay, well, quit your job and test the what. Like, no, hold on, pump the brakes. My suggestion is always try. Start to daydream a little bit about what it is that you think you might want to do, knowing that you might get that wrong and you can change your mind again. But try, think about what you think you want to do and build a resume around that path and try, apply, talk to folks, network a little, see what's out there. It's a little bit of testing the waters. Like you said, put your toe in the water. But you have got to try. And some folks will say, well, my job is so big, I can't ever get a time off. Okay, do you get a day off? Do you get off work at 6 o'clock at some point? Like at some point, there's a moment where you get to go home and you get to go do something other than work. And sometimes it is that moment. This is where you get to sacrifice. This is where you have to sacrifice a little bit of time, a little bit of sleep, a little bit of TV watching, a little bit of Facebook scrolling, because you got some work to do. You got to update that resume. You got to take time to sit and be still and just daydream and think a little, right? Look and study some job descriptions. What speaks to you? Don't be so concerned about what I'm not qualified for today. This is not the time. Right. So many people call me and they're, well, I really want to do this, but I know I can't do that. Who said you couldn't do that thing? You decided that you couldn't do it because you didn't even try. And if I look at it and I say, well, all you got to do is take this class and read that book and maybe, get this certification, in 4 months' time, you'll be ready for that thing. But you were afraid to take the first step because it seems daunting. It seems like it's just too much. And sometimes all it takes is just a few minutes, even a consultation with me, 15 minutes. And I got the keys to the kingdom to set you all the way free, but you got to take the 15 minutes. So it starts with 1 minute to schedule it, 15 minutes to have the conversation. And now you have action steps. I know what to do now. I can get this thing done. But we get so caught up in the toxicity that we're used to, in the devil that we know. We get so caught up in it. And it's such a shame. And I think so many people are wasting away and withering away in jobs that will replace them in a heartbeat. Your job will be posted before the coroner gets you to the funeral home. Your job will be posted. So come on. This is a very good day to shake out of that slumber, wake up, and take some form of action, whatever it is, even if it's daydreaming, if it's scheduling somebody's consultation somewhere, take a step.
It's reminding me, Iris, of the Indiana Jones metaphor you were telling me about last night.
So he has to cross this chasm. And in the chasm, he's like, well, how am I going to cross the chasm? There's no bridge. But the truth is if he took a leap of faith and put his foot down, there actually is a bridge. But until you take the leap of faith in yourself, you won't know that there's a bridge. So it definitely reminds me of that. It reminds me of Henna Pryor. We had her on too, is you have to cross that awkward chasm. You have to have a small leap of faith. But I did kind of want to go back I have been coaching someone around this, and we actually got to the point where they could see what they were telling themselves was an active way to keep themselves safe. So, he would say, well, I haven't made time. And I said, well, you haven't made time. Then we kind of talked to him, and he goes, I think it's just I'm afraid, and it's just something, and an excuse isn't bad, but I think just even telling yourself and giving yourself permission to say, it's okay to make an excuse. Let's just honor the fact that you're just afraid, and it's okay. And don't just say the words and let them get out of your head, or I'm not good at networking, or I don't have time to talk to people. And they say these things, and in the back of their head, they know, like, I'm just saying this because it's a protective mechanism. So sometimes I get clients to the point where they can actually just tell themselves, like, look, I'm saying this because I am afraid, and it's okay. And I think sometimes part of the process, right? You're shaking your head, like part of the process is just to have space and permission to let people say, like, I'm terrified, right?
I'll tell you, sometimes I think we also say those things out of habit. For many years, I deal with a chronic inflammation kind of illness, and I dealt with fatigue and pain for years, and I didn't understand it. And it's just always tired all the time. Well, I finally got to the point where I got to my doctors and figured out what was going on, and got the medication and got the treatment, and it started to feel better. But then the day would come when somebody who hadn't seen me in a long time would ask, how are you doing? My response was still, I'm so tired. Like, I'm not even tired anymore. But I was so used to saying that as a response to anybody asking about me that I kept saying it even when it wasn't true anymore. And so sometimes folks will say, oh, I'm not good at networking. Okay, you might be used to saying that, but let me show you how. Let me show you that it is not this snake oil salesman kind of situation. It's not this usury experience where I'm going to get in somebody's DMs and inbox and I'm going to ask them to get me a job. That's not what networking even is. How many times have you met somebody on an airplane, had the greatest conversation? We should keep in touch. And then you never do it. You don't follow up. You're probably like me. I have this thing called the business card graveyard. I had all the stacks and stacks of business cards of people that I will never, ever again follow up with. Let's just keep it real. And so then this thing along came LinkedIn. And now I'm just like, wait, I can send them a quick little invite and boom, I'm actually connected with this person and I can just like their comment every now and again. You know what? That's a mechanism of keeping in touch. That's a form of networking. And I can do that. And it doesn't feel icky. It doesn't feel overwhelming, and it doesn't take a whole lot of time. I could do that. So maybe I'm not the type of person that's going to show up to a room full of professionals in business suits and business cards and try to, share my name with 50 people, but I'm the kind of person that can show up on LinkedIn and send a private message to 3 people. That's networking too. And we have got to get out of the fact of thinking that what is networking to this person may not be the formula or the recipe for me. My recipe looks very different from yours. They're still both good, but one works better for me than the other. So yeah, we can talk ourselves out of some things, out of habit, just negative self-talk. We don't know any different. It was how we were raised. Maybe somebody that, somebody around us is pouring those kind of thoughts into us, telling us we're not good enough. We'll never find something better. Even on your job, you can't find another job like this. Your boss is telling you those things to intimidate you. But here's the thing. Don't forget there's another way. What worked for them, what worked for somebody else might not be the formula for you.
We're on LinkedIn, so I was just wondering, I know you're a LinkedIn guru, I don't know how to call it, but are there some tips or thoughts about the utilization of LinkedIn? I don't mean to deviate from the case studies, but I think this is a good place for a tool because you had mentioned that. So What do you generally see as some good tips for as someone who's networking, someone who's looking for something new or wants to keep things up to date and fresh? What are some tips you have for people on LinkedIn?
Good. So LinkedIn, I love LinkedIn. I don't get paid to say that, right? And so I just happen to believe that LinkedIn is one of the most powerful tools in a professional person's arsenal. Some of the really easy, simple, low-hanging fruit kind of things are just like, comment, and share folks' posts. But here's the deal. Not just anybody's post. Think about your own self. Think about your own future. Think about your own next step. And if I want to next be this kind of professional, right? I want to be a videographer. I want to next be this podcaster. I want to next be this engineer. Those are the kinds of posts that you want to be centering around. And so you don't want to just be liking everybody's posts about the lottery and the elections and some of everything else. It has nothing to do with the work that you're trying to be a part of. Right. And so stay focused on your own goal. But that's the thing. Step 1 is to have a goal. We have to start with that. And once I have a goal, I can now center my liking, commenting, sharing around, showcasing that I know the players in this game. I know the people that run in this space. I have thoughts. I have thought leadership. I can share ideas and perspectives. I can comment on different posts, and I can share articles. I can write articles. There are things that I can do actively to showcase that I know what I'm doing in this space, so that you start to see me, right? Because when you think of Brenda Mariah, you should be thinking of careers. You shouldn't be thinking of darn Pepsi Cola and Taco Bell. You should be thinking about careers, because that is the message that I send all day, every day. And so what is it that people should be thinking about when they think of you? You have got to get to the root of that answer. And then those are the pieces of content. Now, beside that, I think there are some beautiful things we can do with messaging, with personal messaging. That's not usury. Listen, we have to earn the right to ask people for things. We have to earn the right to ask people for help. We have to earn the right to ask people to buy our services and our solutions, right? So the more people that are coming into my inbox, immediately offering me a solution to a problem that I don't even have, you don't know me. You hadn't earned the right to make that ask of me. And so same is true for somebody who might be looking for a new role. You have to earn the right to ask somebody to pass along your resume or refer you for a position at their company. That is not an automatic thing that a stranger owes you. And so if you're having trouble connecting with people in general, right, try connecting with people who work at the places where you want to be, people who do the work that you want to do, people who recruit for the kinds of positions that you want to have. These are the kinds of invitations that you should be sending out, and make sure that those invitations have some sort of meaning to them. Why should I connect with you? Stranger danger. I don't know you. I'm not going to connect with a complete stranger, because you could be anybody, right? There are creeps on LinkedIn too. Let's not get it twisted. And so if we are mindful of the fact that we have got to show people why they should connect with us. Who are you, right? I came across your profile. I think you're awesome. This is the space that I'm looking to explore opportunities in, and I would love to just stay connected with you and learn from you. That's not creepy at all. But if you just send me something that's like, hey, I can help you with your SEO, who the heck? Who are you? You do know you're the 50th this week that can help me with my SEO. And so please stop this.
We get those too.
So yeah, there's a lot of like practical elements to LinkedIn that I think we can do. Now, I even have an ebook. It's called How to Use LinkedIn in 15 Minutes Per Day. It's free. Get that thing, use the tool. It talks about just how to engage with folks in your network on your homepage, how to engage with folks through your private messaging, and just liking, commenting, posting, that whole strategy, sharing. Come on. These are absolutely doable, practical things that you can begin to do if only you take that first step.
Brenda, as you're talking, one of the things I'm thinking is, we talked about untraining the idea that you have to hang on to your job. But I also think it's tapping into one of the other popular untraining things that we're untraining, which is that you have to do it alone. And as you're talking, like Iris and I both work with people around career a lot, because when you're working around career, it's an inward and an outward journey. It's ultimately about like self-trust. Can I trust myself? And who am I? And that when we leave a job, we have to renegotiate that. You use the word reclaim when we first started talking. We have to reclaim parts of ourselves. We have to update our belief systems. And that's really hard to do alone, particularly when we're scared. So I'm just an advocate for don't do this alone. Like, do this with your network, do this with a coach, do this with a best friend. But doing it alone when you're freaking out is really hard. It's a hard time to ask for your best, and it's a hard time to become your best.
Yeah. I did a little thought exercise early last year. I said to myself, if you couldn't do the work that you have been doing, that you love, that you're making a real difference. If you couldn't do that work, what other work would you do? Right. And so I really sat with that. I really sat with that. I struggled with it even. It was hard. And you know what the deal is? I was in a good, healthy mental space. And it was hard. And if it was that hard when I was in a good, healthy mental space, imagine how much harder it is after I got laid off. I'm going through depression, I'm dealing with personal stuff in my life. My career isn't on track. Imagine how much harder it is to do in those kinds of moments. And so this is absolutely raw, what you're saying. I call it an army of advocates. So I love the language that we're sharing here, but we have to have an army of advocates. We have to have cheerleaders, people who believe in us, people who have seen us do our work and say, you know what, darn it, you are good at that. Because we internally battle with imposter syndrome, especially women. And so I know some of your listeners may not be women. And so some men will deal with it too. But if we're already fighting our own selves to believe that we're worthy of a thing, and then you're going about a job search or applying for roles and you keep getting rejections. You keep going to interviews and you're getting ghosted by recruiters and you're not getting those offers. They picked another candidate. They've gone another way. The rec got frozen. All these responses that you're getting time and time again, it can really start to eat away at you. And so if you don't have people around you, like a buffer and a cheerleader and holding you up and elevating you to some level because they believe in you when you can't believe in yourself, it is massively hard. But you said the word. Sometimes it's friends, sometimes it's family, and some folks don't have access to either. And so you may want to reach out to a coach or a career advisor, somebody who's kind of been there, done that, can help you navigate these systems. But going alone and you're already in one of the maybe lowest seasons of your life, it can be really, really difficult, if not impossible seeming. And so we have got to make sure that we surround ourselves with people. And I say this, people who know what they're talking about. Not everybody is qualified to be your career coach. So yes, you can have some folks to encourage you and tell you, keep going and keep pressing and I believe in you, but not everybody's counsel should you be heeding for how do I navigate every job search system.
I think case number 2, right? So we're up to that one. The company is downsizing and now I've been let go.
Yeah. And I think the 2 questions I have specific to this, and you've already answered them to some extent, like when someone is in a state of burnout or when somebody is just in a dramatic state of vulnerability, what is important for them? What are the appropriate expectations they can have for themselves, and what are some appropriate next steps? And the other piece that I think is on a lot of people's minds is, given the economy, what is it like out there to be looking for a job? What can I expect? What are some strategies that I can employ to improve my chances of getting to the top of the resume pile?
So let me start with the first piece, because one of the elements of my work is called corporate outplacement service. And so corporate outplacement says I have to lay off 30 people, but I'm not going to just leave them hanging. I'm not just going to kick them to the curb and say, good luck to you, goodbye, good riddance. I'm going to set them up for success by bringing in an expert who can help with packaging their resume, packaging their LinkedIn, help them with interview preparation, all of those things. I'm going to bring in somebody who can help them with that. And so that's one of the things that I love to do, because it makes a silver lining out of a very bad situation, right? And so I'm all about seeking out those silver linings. But one of the things that I find I do first in those engagements is to check in on a person emotionally, right? How are you feeling? How is your heart? And then trying to take a moment to focus on gratitude, which I know sounds, it's really hard to think about gratitude when you're in a deficit emotionally, right? It's like, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. It sounds almost like you're trying to kick a man when he's down, like, just be grateful you're alive. That ain't how we got to do this thing. Come on now. And so one of the things I said in one of my engagements is, I was like, you know what I'm grateful for? The fried chicken at the grocery store. I was so grateful for the fried chicken at the grocery store. You know why? Because I'm not a good cook. I don't like to cook, and we need to eat, and that chicken is good and that chicken is cheap. And so I can feed my family for about $6. Everybody's full. We're good. And so I'm grateful for the fried chicken and fries. And so I'm not talking about like, I'm so grateful that I'm alive. I'm talking about find some little minutia, some little element of life that I am grateful for. Because what you find is that if I can be grateful for that, you know what? I'm also grateful for the fact that the King's Hawaiian Rolls comes in a 4-pack now. And I'm also grateful for the fact that Mountain Dew is on sale. And so it can build momentum. Gratitude start at the smallest, most granular level. And so sometimes we have to share first. As coaches, we have to be the first to share, and then they catch on, and then the momentum can build. So it is one of the most important first steps. But then sometimes job search ain't the next first step. Sometimes the next first step is, you know what? Take a minute, take a couple of days, rest, feel what you feel, curl up in the ball, binge on Netflix, do what you got to do, and just kind of feel it. It's okay. Just feel it. Go and call somebody and cry about it. It's okay. Because this is a hard moment, darn it. Because I can't just jump into this new thing without just kind of feeling sorry for myself for like 5 minutes. Give me a minute. I just want to feel it. So now I felt it. Okay. I've started to come to terms with it. Now I can think about, I'm grateful for this little thing. I'm grateful I got toothpaste in my tube. I'm grateful I got running water. I'm grateful my toilet didn't overflow. I'm grateful, my shower is warm today. I'm grateful for these little things, and then they start to amount to bigger things. And now maybe instead of 8 hours of job searching a day, maybe I can put in an hour, and I can be proud because I did a darn thing for an hour. And so I might graduate. Maybe next week I can do 2 hours. Maybe the week after I can do 4 hours. But for now, an hour is like a lifetime. It's a lifetime. If you have never felt depression, God bless you. God bless you if you have never felt so down in the dumps that getting out of the bed felt impossible. I am glad that is your life story, but that is not mine. And that is typically not the life story of somebody who's just faced a layoff. And so they're feeling some kind of way. They're feeling like they're not good enough. I'm going to share just a super fast story when I was laid off. You might be wondering, how did she know about the emotions of a layoff? Because it happened to me. And when it happened to me, my whole identity it was destroyed. My confidence gone. I thought I just wasn't good enough. I just didn't make the cut. I'm nothing. And my whole identity wrapped up in this job. So now when the job goes away, I'm nothing. And then I walked into an outplacement service that we had been provided with. And I walked into that office and I saw some of my former colleagues in that room. But I'm like, but these people, when I looked at them, I'm like, they're amazing. They're amazing. And so if they're amazing and they're in this room too, maybe I'm not such a piece of crap after all. And so I want you all to understand, first and foremost, that layoff has nothing at all to do with you. It's not your performance. You didn't do something wrong. Layoff is a business. We didn't make enough sales. Sorry, we got to cut some costs somewhere, and you are just caught up in that. It is not a factor or an element of your performance. So get that straight and clear in your mind. But then then we face the reality of like, well, Jesus, I'm seeing so many green open to work banners on LinkedIn and folks are talking about how I can't find a job. And I'm just so caught up in the rejection of it all. Like the landscape of the job market, you'll hear it depends on who you're talking to because it is industry specific. Certain industries might be doing very well and other industries are really, really suffering. So one of your jobs is to understand the state of affairs for your industry, the work that you do, and to see if there's an opportunity for me to do that work in a new industry that might be thriving, right? And so 2020, like travel industry, events industry, like all this stuff was just gone. And then we just saw all these layoffs with like Meta and Twitter X or whoever they want to be, right? All these different entities were laying off by the tens of thousands. And it's like, oh, shoot, what's happening? We saw a surgence of DEI hiring in 2020. Did you see the corresponding taper in 2022 and 2023? That's real talk. Those jobs went away. It was politically advantageous to hire DEI experts in 2020 because it addressed a symptom, right? But it didn't last. The funding didn't continue. Training and development funding dried up just alongside DE&I. So we have to pay attention to the state of affairs for the work that we're doing and shift if necessary. There's a whole lot of conversation about remote work and can I work remotely? And look at how many employers are pushing back and say, well, we at least need you to have some time in the office. So this 100% remote, I don't know. And so I need everybody to just have their eyes open to what's real, to what's right in front of you. And you have to embrace shifting when necessary. So I'm from the Buffalo, Rochester area, and then I moved to Phoenix, Arizona. Well, I think about the folks in Buffalo, Rochester, whose job in the winter, at least, is to drive a snowplow. They drive a snowplow. And if you have driven a snowplow for 20 winters and then you move to Phoenix, that can't be your job anymore. You can't do that same job in the desert. It doesn't fit. And so now what other things could I do where I can use maybe some of those same skills, but I pursue an industry that it makes sense, that is actually still growing. There are still viable opportunities for me to explore.
I like the idea of, so I'm looking at, what are my universal skills, and are there industries where these universal skills that I might be interested in? It's almost like you're having them do that thought experiment of having those things come together. So instead of, this is my whole identity, let's say, for example, I'm a snowplower and that's it. But what else, right? So what are the universal skills you have? Driving. And there's a ton of people who need bus drivers. We have bus driver shortages. So maybe you're taking these skills and then either upskilling them or training, and then you're going down a path of finding some other industry that's in need.
Yes.
I think that's so important. You're not your job. You're not just this title. You're a person with a set of a bunch of very strong skill sets. So now what are those?
I keep going back to the metaphor of like wanting to be to the other side of the chasm, but there's all these steps and they require leaps of faith, and it requires many steps. So I just want to reiterate that for people, because I think part of why it's so overwhelming is because there are lots of steps, but we might not know what they are. And as you said, Brenda, we got to get started. And sometimes it can be so overwhelming, we're immobilized. But finding that first step and knowing it will be multiple steps, and it's okay that we don't know what they are, and we can take it step by step, and we can get support, is reassuring. Is there anything else you want to say along those lines to people who are a little freaked out right now?
Yeah, I love that. Just being unafraid to the steps sometimes do require time. They do require energy. Sometimes they require investment. But here's the deal. Don't automatically assume I have to go back to school and get a 4-year degree in order to do. Stop. You can join up with your local workforce center, probably get a grant for training and certification costs, and be certified in a new area within the next 3 months. So that 3 months is going to go by whether you did that work or you didn't. And so I would like to see you come out the other side of that 3 months with a certificate and some training and some new experiences in hand versus crying a bigger river, right? We can be here all day mad about the state of affairs, or we can take that thing in our own hands and steer this ship to the shore. And so be not afraid. I know it's scary to you, but there are people like me, like them, that understand how to navigate this thing, how to outsmart these systems. And you sometimes need to leverage those resources and stop being afraid. Stop thinking you go this thing by yourself. I'll figure it out. I know how to write a resume. No, you don't. I am a whole professional resume writer. And it took me many years, nearly 2 decades, to feel like I'm very strong in resume writing. So don't think that 2-hour workshop you took in 1998 is going to cut it in today's marketplace. It just ain't. So we got
Can I get an amen?
I'm afraid of it.
I've told my clients 100 times. We need a lot of amens, because I've told my clients 100 times. I said, stop doing your resume. Just straight up stop. Find someone, pay the fee. It will be worth your time. It is worth 100%, even more of that. Just stop doing your resume. Just stop.
And I think people are drawn to it because it feels like something they can control and something they can work on. But maybe that's not the best place to start.
Listen, I'm not going to go around fixing my own toilet. I'm not going to go around doing my own hair. I'm not going to perform my own surgery. You don't write your own resume because it's hard. It's hard for me to write my own, and I'm a professional. So imagine how much harder it might be for you, the listener, who took a class 20 years ago and think you know what it takes.
I've never thought I could actually write my resume. So we've come to the end, and we had a couple of case studies. We have some tools. There's some tools you mentioned on your website. We'll make sure we get those up. But we end with, what's one thing you want the audience to take away from today's discussion, Brenda?
Be encouraged. Take a right first step. One of the best first steps you can take is scheduling a consultation with me or somebody like me. Right. So with me, it's www.pushcareermanagement.com. Get it done. Schedule it now. Don't think about it. Just do it. If it's not me, schedule with somebody that you know, that you trust. OK, but take a step and do not accept being stuck and stagnant as the rest of your life and the rest of your career. It does not need to be that way.
This woman is a badass career ninja. And we want you back on at some point to, negotiations for salaries, all those things. You're just a wealth of information. So please go to our website. We'll put it up. If you like the content that you've heard, please like and subscribe. We're on YouTube and anywhere you get your podcasts. Okay, what do we say at the end of every podcast, Whitney?
Keep untraining.
Keep untraining.